Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I have a beautiful Tim Holtz embossing folder to show you and also a fun technique to color this in. So let's go ahead and get started. For paper today, I'm going to be using the Strathmore marker paper. This is a smooth 50.5 pound weight paper. So we're going to cut this panel to 4 inches by 6 inches. And for the embossing folder, we have this beautiful Tim Holtz 3D Texture Fades embossing folder. And this is the Poinsettia, and this is just absolutely gorgeous. And let me just give you a little bit closer look of the dimension we're going to get from this folder. So now I'm going to place that panel inside the embossing folder. I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up so that I have about equal distance on each side of that poinsettia there. Now I'm going to be putting this through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine, and there are instructions for a 3D embossing folder on the machine. But I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm taking 2 thin pieces of cardboard. These are just the backs of some notepads that I had. So they're very thin, and I'm going to use that as my sandwich. Because the paper that I'm using is only a 50.5 pound weight paper, it's very thin. So what I want to do is make sure I don't apply too much pressure on my paper. So this is a very it's not going to be a tight fit here as it goes through. I want to apply gentle pressure onto that cardstock. So I'm just running this through slowly quite a few times here, maybe 4 or 5 times. And again, just gently pressing that design. I do not want too much pressure here. If you get too much pressure, you don't want to continue on. Just back it out and take off a piece of the cardboard. But again, I want to reiterate that you should definitely follow the instructions for your machine. I just do this a little bit different because I'm using the lightweight paper. So now to color this in, I'm going to be using the pastels. These are the Jane Davenport pastels, and this particular palette is called Chilled. And you can see the beautiful colors I get in this. And then I'm going to also be using her blenders. These are dual tip blender, and it's got a nice long handle on it, so it's really easy to hold on to. And that's going to be important here because you'll see that the way I want to apply my color is kind of almost flat. I just want to come in kind of as flat as I can just to hit the tops of the petals here. And one nice thing about these 3D embossing folders, and I don't know if you've ever tried it with a regular embossing folder, this is a little bit more difficult to do to stay on the image itself. But with these 3D images, you get the ability to kind of stay right up on top there. So it's really easy to stay on the design. So again, I'm coming in as flat as I can here. Now I can switch to the tip of the blender if I need to. So I'm applying that lightest color pink first. And I'm just applying that on all of these petals. And then what I'm going to do is come in with that little bit darker pink here, and I'm going to blend that out just a little bit. Now I'm going to take it flat again and just try to blend that into each other here. And then with that next color down, which is a little bit more of a plum color, I'm going to apply a little shadow there. And now again, I'm going back and blending that out. If you get any excess on the inside of there on the center of the flower, just take a clean blender and just pull that off. And don't worry too much about that because we are going to add a little color to that later on, so it's not that important. So again here, you can see that I'm trying to keep my blender flat. And I'm just going to come in and apply that color. I'm coming in with that little bit darker shade of pink again, and then I'm going to go back and blend that out. And now with the plum, I'm going to add a little shadow there. So it's surprising how much detail you really can get from these pastels. These are so fun to use. I really can't tell you how relaxing it was to do this. And here you can see that I'm going to use the tip of that blender because this gets a little more detailed here. And there you saw I got a little extra pastel on the cardstock, so I just used a clean blender and just pulled that off. And again, don't worry too much here because we are going to be coming in with a little bit more color later on. So here I'm adding that plum color for a little bit of a shadow. And then I'm going to clean any excess off there. Now for this little area here, I wasn't exactly sure where the flower petals were. So you can always go back to your embossing folder here and just kind of reference that and see what you're looking at. It is a little bit hard to tell sometimes. So here I'm just going to come in and finish that last little flower here at the bottom. And again, this is really, really relaxing to do. This would be fun to just emboss a whole stack of these and then take these with you and just play with these while you're watching TV or waiting at a doctor's appointment. So you really don't need a lot of supplies here, just really your embossed cardstock and your pastels. So it's really fun and easy to travel with these. So now I started with the light green. I'm adding that mid green and then coming in with that darker one and blending those out. So I am using the 3 shades of green there. If you get too much pastel on your blender, just clean it off on a dry paper towel or a dry towel, and then you'll get the right consistency that you're looking for there. You can also just lift up the paper and blow off any excess pastels there, because sometimes you get a little bit of that extra dusting, and just blow it off and then just continue on. So this is very forgiving, I find, doing the pastels, because you can basically remove some color if you need to. You can easily come in with a clean blender and remove any color that you got in places you didn't want it. And for a pastel look, you kind of want that imperfection. You just want it to look, I don't know, lightly blended, not perfect. So here you can see I've done the 3 shades of green again, and I put that darker shade in the middle and just pulled it out to the edges. And then I'll just finish up these leaves here. So if you have a lot of Christmas cards to make, this would be a fun one to do, because you can kind of do this over time. If you start early and just do all your embossing one day and then come in, you know, over the next few days and do your coloring, it wouldn't be too difficult. And here for the centers, I'm taking a little bit of that light green and putting it in the center, but we are going to be adding some more color there later on. So here I'll give you a little up close look at that. And now to fill in the open areas, what I'm going to do is use this light blue. And I'm going to, again, kind of come in with a flat blender and just blend up into those areas. And I'm just going to add the look of sky here, kind of keeping it a little darker in those areas that are closest to the poinsettia, and then working it out towards the edges lighter. But I don't want to work it all the way out to the edges. I just want to bring it out a little bit, because we are going to be adding some color around the edges of this cardstock a little bit later on. So now I'm using the tip of the blender here to get into some of these tighter areas. So I'm just dipping the tip of it right into the pastel and then filling in those little areas there. And then I'm just going to continue blending this out. So I did that for the entire panel here. So now that that's all set, and you can see I didn't go all the way to the edges, I just wanted to give the illusion of the sky in the background there. Now at this point you could spray this with a fixative, a matte finish fixative. I'm not going to do that, but I did want to show you that it is a pastel, so some of it can rub off onto your fingers. I didn't get a lot and I'm not worried about it, but if you are, just take it outside and give it a quick spray, and I'll list some of those matte sprays down below for you. So now using my Nuvo crystal drops, this has a nice glitter to it. I'm going to squeeze just a little bit at a time here on my mat because it could dry, so I don't want to put too much on my glass media mat. But what I'm doing is taking a dry brush and I'm picking that up and I'm just painting it right over the pastels. And what I want to do here is I'm kind of dabbing it on and then moving it around a little bit. I just don't want to undo all that blending I've already done on the pastels. So again, just kind of tap it on and then move it around a little bit. And I like that it's going to leave a little bit of texture there. And this is also going to seal in some of that color as well. So now you want to make sure you clean that off right away because it is like a glue. It is going to be very sticky. So you want to make sure you clean your brush in some clean water. And then I'm going to grab my Studio 71 gesso. This is just a white gesso. I'm going to place some on my glass media mat. And I'm going to spritz that with a little bit of water from my Distress sprayer. And then what I'm going to do is just spatter this panel. I want it to look snowy. I just thought it would give it a really pretty look. And I'm going to spatter the entire panel. And that's going to give us a little bit of texture as well. You can see that up close how pretty that looks. So I'm going to quickly heat set this. The next thing I want to do is take my snow marker. This is from Marvi Uchida. Hope I'm saying that right. And I'm going to use my snow marker. You want to shake this up really well. And this is going to give the effect of snow on the tips of my little petals here. It does have a bullet tip on the end. I'm not going to use that though. What I'm going to do is press down to get it started and to release some of the fluid. You just press down and hold. But be careful, don't press too hard because I did that prior to having the camera on and I got a whole ton of it. So you want to just press gently. And then I'm just going to grab a little bit at a time here. So I'm just pressing and releasing gently each time. And then I'm using that brush just to apply it to the tips of the petals on my flowers. And I'm just going to start off with a light coating of it, and then I'm going to come back a little bit later on to add a little bit more. I just want to add it. I don't want to add too much at once. That's why I'm not using the bullet tip. But you certainly could. If you have a lot of these to do, that might be an easier way to do this. And then what you want to do is heat set this. And I'm just moving the heat gun around a little bit. I don't want to overheat it because you don't want to burn it. So you do want to keep your heat tool moving as you do this and just applying a nice even heat there, and you'll see that it's just puffing up and it gives this beautiful snowy effect. Now I did decide I wanted to add a little bit more to a couple of these petals, so I'm just dabbing it on, and I'm not really painting it on. I am just kind of using a dabbing motion here just to get a nice layer of that on here. And now you'll see that it's going to puff up even a little bit more, so we're going to get a lot more texture here. And you can see that there. I just love this. I think it just adds so much interest to the card. So I did that for the rest of the petals, and then I'm going to add a little to the leaves, and I kind of want it to look like the snow sort of landed on some of these leaves here and down into the little flat areas there. You can see like on the top of that leaf, I'm just adding a little bit there as well. So this will just kind of look like some fresh fallen snow here on some of the petals and on the leaves as well. And again, I just think that gives a lot of interest here. So I'm going to continue filling in some of these areas. And again, be careful not to overheat this. You just want to, once it's puffed up, you want to just move on to the next area. And let me just give you a closer look of that. I just love how that looks. So now I'm grabbing my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink and my sponge dauber. And again, I'll list those supplies down below. And I'm going to go all the way around the edges of this. I want to give it kind of an antique-y look. So I'm using the sponge dauber because it's a little bit smaller and it's going to be easier to go around those edges without coming in too far here. So I'm just going to go up to the blue sky that we've done, and just again give it kind of an aged look here around the edges. Now I'm using my metallic gilding polish. This is from Creative Expressions, and you do get this little sponge dauber right on the top, but it's a little big for what I want to do. So I'm just going to grab a little bit with my finger here and just pat it on the high spots of the centers of these flowers. And that's going to give these this beautiful gold metallic finish. And this just looks so pretty. Just adds a little bit of a highlight there. And you can see that up close. Now I wanted to add a little doily effect here, so I'm using my Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits, and I'm going to grab that one there. And these are these beautiful crocheted borders. I'm going to go back to my marker paper, which again is that 50.5 pound weight paper. Because this is so detailed, using a lighter weight paper will make it really easy to cut out all the detail on this die. So I'm running that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. And I'm just going to run that through twice, again, because it is so detailed. And then I'm using my Spellbinders tool-in-one just to pop out all those little pieces. Now I'm going to add some vintage photo to this as well. And I'm going to start at the bottom of the crochet and I'm going to move my way up. So I want it to be darkest along those scalloped edges there. And then just get lighter as I go up towards the top. Just again to give it kind of an aged antique look. And you can see that up close. And now I'm going to just attach this down towards the bottom of the card here. And I'm using my Gina K Connect glue to glue this down. So I'm just going to cut this a little bit shorter. And I'm just going to kind of apply glue randomly all over here. And then I'll use my finger just to spread that out a little bit. So you don't have to spend a real lot of time with this. Just use your finger to make sure you don't have any big globs of it. And just spread that out so it's thin. And then you can attach that to your card. I like to use a clean piece of paper to press this in place because at this point I just don't want to smudge it at all. So I'm just using that paper to press that down, and then I'm going to snip away any excess there. Now I've cut a piece of paper 9 inches by 6.5 inches, and this is a cream colored cardstock and it's a 100 pound weight. And I'm going to score this at 4.5 inches. So this is going to give us a little bit larger card, which will measure 4.5 by 6 inches and will fit into our standard A6 size envelope. So that's going to get attached right to the front of the card here, and I'm using my ATG 700 permanent tape to attach this. So I'm going to go ahead and center this on the front of my card panel and tape that down. Now for the sentiment, I'm going back to the Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits, and I'm using that smaller Merry Christmas, and I just love these. That one there is quite large. I think it's about 4.5 inches long, that larger one. We're going to use the smaller one, and this is the Christmas Ribbon Sentiments. And for paper, I'm using my Kraft-stock Tim Holtz Idea-ology Metallics, and I'm going to use the gold. So I'm going to take that smaller Merry Christmas and I'm going to die cut that. I'm also going to die cut 2 more from that 100-pound cream colored cardstock, just to make this a little bit thicker. So I'm going to go ahead and attach these together, again using my Gita K Connect glue. And you just want to take a little bit of time here to make sure you line everything up. And then once I have those all connected together, I'm going to have this nice thick embellishment with this beautiful gold. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach that to my card. And again, I'm going to use some clean scrap paper just to press that down. I find especially when I'm using the metallic papers, I want to keep the metallic as clean as possible, because once you get glue on it, it's a little bit difficult to remove it. So using my Sparklets embellishments, these are the Winter Wishes. I'm going to grab one of those little rhinestones, and I'm using my jewel picker from Marvy to place that down. So I'm adding a little bit of the Gita K Connect glue, and then I'm going to attach that rhinestone right on the eye there to dot the eye. Again, just adding a little bit more interest. And now I'm going to come in with a few little tiny pearls here. These are a kind of a gold color, antique gold color pearl. And I'm going to add 4 of those right along that little crocheted doily. And now I'll give you a closer look at our card. And I just think, again, this embossing folder is just outstanding. I love it. I love the metallic sentiment on it and all the little details we have here. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.